getting on. Sat by the fireside, pondering on. Picture book, pictures of your mama, taken by your papa a long time ago. Picture book of people with each other to prove they love each other a long time ago. Picture book, picture book.
Back in the swing of things this afternoon, a nine-race Friday afternoon program here. Live look in the meantime at about 11:05 a.m. In fact, 11:06 a.m. on a fast and good nine-race Friday afternoon. We are back off the one afternoon of no racing here. Thursdays are dark, and we kick off what is effectively, guess you could say, Belmont Stakes Eve here in South Florida and Father's Day weekend. So we are coming up on a mega weekend towards the tail end of June 2020. Off and running from the starting gate, everybody. Glad to have you with us on this Friday edition, a live Friday edition of Gulfstream Park today. Jason Blewett, your friend, joining you in our third floor clubhouse studios as we move forward, and there's a lot of opportunity on the card. In fact, we'll wait a few hours, but we do have 3 turf races coming down the pike, and the grass action, in fact, begins in the 6th race. We can't say, though, Gulfstream Park turf and turf racing without bringing in Mr. Green Thumb himself here in Hallandale Beach. There he is, a smiling Ron Nicoletti. What's going on downstairs there, Ronnie boy?
Just waiting for the day to start. We got the Stronach 5 a little later this afternoon. Of course, the Rainbow 6 is still in play with a really nice jackpot guarantee. So lots of good stuff. You mentioned 2nd and 5th are off the turf. Gives the turf course a chance to dry out a little bit. And we got some really nice turf races later on during the afternoon. And 2 of our races today are part of that Stronach 5 sequence, races 8 and 9.
Absolutely, our late double. I mean, that is a real cross-section when you consider locally our Rainbow, our late pick 5 with the 2 legs, 2/5, in fact, of today's $100,000 guaranteed Stronach 5. Belmont Stakes time, my friend. It does feel a little bit odd, the fact that it is Friday, June the 19th, and we're talking about a Belmont that has yet to be run, but such is the reality in 2020, and I think all of us are looking forward to watching what was once the longest and final leg of the Triple Crown, which will now go as the shortest and first leg of the series. And we've got a field obviously headlined by our Curlin Florida Derby winner in Tiz the Law, who's just, boy, has he been good since day number 1. You know, being, part of the Rapoli camp, Tiz the Law defeated a horse we were really high on last summer in Dream Bigger, first time out at Saratoga last August. And I remember thinking, wow, this Tiz the Law could be a exceptionally talented horse. And along the way, Ronnie's racked up some major wins, including that victory here in late March, which we're checking out in deep stretch of the Florida Derby.
Yeah, and the best part is you can't miss him on the racetrack with that big blaze. And he was good as a 2-year-old, and even in earlier races where he had to, start and stop again. He showed he had that ability, and that's what you see with a good horse. So he was able to get in a little bit of trouble, change running style, get outside, and win. So he's good. He's got that maintenance work over the Belmont main track, and there you see the odds and the post positions for the Belmont Stakes.
He is one of 10 in Belmont 152. I don't think there's any argument that he'll be odds on when it's all said and done. Maybe in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 or so, even money with Manny Franco. And I think of, again, Saratoga Stable getting a shot back in the limelight almost 2 decades following Funny Sides and Probable Rise through that 2003 Triple Crown, and you'd love to see Barkley Tagg just get a shot, a realistic shot, which he has in spades on paper, to win his Belmont Stakes, because after all, Funny Side had run so well and came so close to winning the Triple Crown back in 2003.
Yeah, so it's, you'll be an asterisk, I guess, next to all this stuff. But, hey, it's still tough to win one of these races. It's a Grade 1 event, and Tiz the Law looks awful tough. And, and Barkley just says the horse is doing great. So Barkley says it, I'm going to hang my hat on that.
Yeah, there is no question about that, Ronnie. And just looking at the Florida Derby Belmont Double, it hasn't been done all that often, but there are some top-class horses who have managed to pull it off. Your last 3, Union Rags, Empire Maker, and Thunder Gulch. That is a big-time list, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, man. Setting up Florida horses set the races in the summer, in the spring. Even though it's a new set of circumstances, they run well here, and they go up north, and they run exceptionally well.
So what are we, 55 minutes essentially on the nose there, away from the first race here on this 9-race Friday afternoon. A bit overcast skies in Hallandale Beach. I'm going to take a little gander at the early pick 5, and I think a word that comes to my mind when I'm trying to put these tickets in, and most of the time they're very budget-minded, and frugal is a word I use quite a bit in my household, and I'm throwing frugal to the wind, Ronnie, in this $48 play for me. That's a pretty pricey early pick 5 ticket as far as this category goes. I couldn't come up with a single, and this first race off the bat, you see me using the 4 inside horses. I just had a tough time, and I think most may run into the dilemma that I did. It's just a very tricky but intriguing race to get a grasp on as to who might be the goods when it's all said and done.
Yeah, it's a tough way to start the sequence, but you get lots of coverage. I use the 3 of the 4 horses you have on in race number 1, and good progression as you go down. So, boy, you're stepping it up, $48. Uh-oh.
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed there. The late one's a little less expensive for sure. I think $18. But I think looking at this first race, and I think I'm correct in saying 5.5 furlongs. This is the longest 2-year-old race we have run thus far in 2020. So, I mean, this is a new hurdle for these horses. And I think looking not only at the distance of 5.5 furlongs, but the fact you've got a couple of well-connected fillies breaking in the middle of the pack who are both second-time starters, they're probably the right narrative jumping off point with the presence of the number 3 Acting Lucky and your top pick, the number 4 Hara, who showed speed. In fact, I rode Vied Between, led 8th, well clear in second. Her first start, although it didn't come up fast, was a good effort.
Yeah, and stretching out to that distance you talked about, 5.5 furlongs. I thought it was a promising 5-furlong debut. She dueled for the lead, and she did finish second. Antonio Sano's the trainer, and you got Edgar Zayas atop this, a daughter of Hard Spun, so nicely bred. I thought Hara was the logical one. You mentioned the 3 Acting Lucky, stretching out the additional furlong today. Stumbled at the start, sort of raced greenly in that race last time. Still managed to finish second in a 4.5 furlong debut. But I know that you have Fozia on top of your ticket, and that's a first-time starter from Saffie Joseph Jr. that might be able to run a little bit.
A little bit of a home game, if you will, for this homebred filly by Sky Mesa and Saffie's Evolution. We have seen him pick up some new clients. First horse, I remember him running, owned and bred by Peter Vesco, who's been a long time and long-standing big member of the South Florida racing and breeding community. And why don't we get everybody up to speed with a recent workout with this homebred by Sky Mesa, an Indian Charlie Dam, who's been just getting the best of it here at Gulfstream. And I had pulled this work essentially because to me it looked like this was very much a case where this was by design, where Fuzia was the one in behind, where she had to take the dirt off her 2 stablemates that were in front of her. They drifted off the rail, and she just slipped on through under a hand ride. I mean, more or less not asked for anything. This was a fairly professional workout for this filly, who's the 3rd foal out of a dam who only ran once. There's one sibling who's won a couple of times sprinting on the dirt. Anxious to see what we get from the one Fuzia, who, again, from that breeze, from taking the kickback to angling inside, just did everything right, I thought, in that workout we just showed.
Yeah, you got a little bit more of a chance with that tough inside post. When you stretch out the 5.5 furlongs, you got a little more room to navigate. So we'll see how Fozia runs today in race number 1 for Saffie.
Lost a couple of turf races given the wet weather we had here both on Wednesday, and it was raining depending upon, I guess, where you were yesterday in South Florida. I know it rained up by me in North Lauderdale, so we did lose races 2 and 5 just as far as precautionary measures go, and safety always comes first, and we'll bring on a cast in this 5-furlong dirt sprint, a cast of 7 with this 12-5 3-lifetime claimer. I do see a potential collision course as far as early speed goes between our flipped first and second horses and our boy Evans and the 11. Congrats that. But in the end, Ronnie, even if they hook up going 5, I thought there was a good chance they could just run 1-2 around the dirt this afternoon.
Yeah, that's the way I saw it, too. Congrats, Dad, is dropping a notch. Followed that hard-fought run victory against those 12-5, 2 lifetime claimers. Goes back to sets the pace. Of course, these are on the turf, but Mike Yates sees to keep this horse in. Miguel Vazquez, outside speed this afternoon. Going to have that nice outside trip this afternoon. And our boy Evans, I always thought was going to be a dirt horse in here. Claimed by Mike Maker, tried the turf. I think he can run well, and I think you're right. These are the 1-2 speeds, at least on paper. And I use Enzo Express, who ran well on the dirt a couple of starts back. We basically have the super right there.
Yeah, I mean, the 4 horses, they're going to bet. You and I play in this race very, very close to the vest. I mean, Enzo Express does have the good win 2 back on a dry track. And the 5 dark gauges, not sure what his best game is, but he's run okay on the dirt in the past. And he's one, much like the Deuce, that would benefit in a major way if the 6 and 11 just go too fast and adversely affect one another in that first flight. On the main for the third, we'll go 5, another cast of 2-year-olds in this $25,000 to $20,000 maiden claimer, where I looked, Ronnie, and although I don't love anybody, I'm just in the camp of 2 second-time starters, beginning with Antonio's horse, who I picked in the 7, Turpial, who was off very awkwardly from the inside post. I do like that Heavenly Blessing, who was third in Turpial's debut, came back to break his maiden here Wednesday afternoon. And I've also got Ralph's horse in the mix, the number 4, First Navy Admiral, he's going to improve this afternoon getting out of the Gatsby race.
Yeah, I went with the first time starting here, but with those horses, you make a great case for those. I also have the 4 First Navy Admiral on my ticket, but Monday with Mike is a gelded son of Win Early Sire, Kozan, debuting for Kathleen O'Connell. So I looked up a stat on Kathleen with a 2-year-old first-time starters, maiden claimers on the dirt. She is solid. She's 18 for 81. That's 22%, 46% in the money. And still, after all of those horses, a positive return of investment of $2.73. First Navy Admiral. I also used Midnight Traveler on my ticket, just the most experienced runner in the field. I thought maybe he can grab a share.
We've got a Rainbow 6 with $200,000 in the guarantee, 3 on turf, 3 on main, and it's all coming up after this timeout.
And they're off. Second in the 2-path. Round off first inside. Race. A quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 yards out. Last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Hey, everybody, we are back on this live Friday edition of Gulfstream Park today, and a look at the turf course here at Gulfstream. We were able to squeeze in one turf race before the heavens opened up here Wednesday afternoon, but it is green, it is lush, and it will see action beginning in race number 6 this afternoon, a post time of about 2:40 Eastern, and that's one of the things I like about this upcoming Rainbow 6. Aside from the $200K guarantee, you've got a nice even sequence, 3 on the main, 3 on the turf. You've also got, as we were saying, Ronnie, a very popular cross-section and busy late double as it stands here. Our 8th and 9th not only play part in the Rainbow and late 5 locally, there are 2 races in the Stronach 5.
Yeah, it kicks off with our race here at Gulfstream Park. That's race number 8. And then we have leg C, which is race number 9 here. So as you mentioned, that's our late daily double. A couple from Laurel and one from out there on the West Coast at Santa Anita Park about 5 p.m. So, of course, always the 12% takeout, $100,000 guaranteed. And as we say every week, boy, it pays awful handsome.
It really does. 17 G's plus last Friday afternoon. Good luck if you're taking a stab in the Stronach 5. And the same certainly can be said, a similar sentiment and then some as far as our locally based Jackpot Rainbow 6. We do begin, Ronnie, and we've got your ticket. This was a race that had one of the biggest early defections, in my opinion, on the card in Bridologist. I'm wondering if you used 2 here to start.
I did use the 2 here to start. I thought the logical 2 with that scratch was our Ninja JK and USS Colton. And as you mentioned, a big scratch in there. And then I went 3 deep in race number 5. That's that other race that's taken off the turf. City Park, the 5, was entered to run on the main track. Looking at Roses stays in the race. I don't know if this horse can run on the main track, but certainly has got run well on the turf. And I used the 6 horse in here as my 3rd pick, just to add a little flavor in there, or a little coverage, I should say. And race number 6, the 1, my point exactly, in the town, Valiant Virtue. 3 deep in race number 7 this afternoon. And those 2 races that are part of the Stronach 5, I went 2 deep in race number 8 with Swirling Candy. Looks like the one to beat, but I also used Fujihara, that one from the Carlos David barn. And in race number 9, I did go 3 deep with Goodbye Greg, Kyle, and Apache Brave. So for me, it's $43.20, and we got the $200,000 jackpot guarantee.
There is really an argument to be had starting this thing out in the 4th race, our 4th consecutive race, in fact, over the main track, listed as fast on an overcast Friday afternoon here at Gulfstream Park, where maybe 90% of the tickets, certainly higher than 85%, might just be using the 3 USS Colton for Ralph in off a career best effort, keeping a Misael, and the number 8, who you and I picked in the number 8 horse, of course, our Ninja JK.
Yeah, stretching out to 6.5 furlongs after chasing the pace and finishing second, was the favorite that day in his 5 furlong debut. Now that race was moved from the turf to the main track. Georgina Baxter, Edgar Zayas. This barn trains for horses to have some early speed, and I think that's what this horse is going to do this afternoon, and proved it can run on the main track with that off the turf the last time out.
Off the turf race aside, he was pretty stubborn running second at 5/8, and maybe getting a little more real estate helps him out. A horse, in fact, named after our buddy Jonathan Kinchin, our Ninja JK for Rich Averill and company. And then we have the number 3 USS Colton, who again just took a drop to 16, but his last race was good. And Ronnie and I clearly saw the race eye to eye. Just a tough field to get cute with, and we like the biggest players by a long ways in the Rainbow Six opener. We'll kick off kind of an early bird late pick 5, Ronnie. It's just a 9-race Friday, and at a little after 2 p.m. Eastern is when this late pick 5 sequence is going to begin, with an off the turf race going a 1-turn mile here on the dirt. The dirt effort 3 back for the Deuce Strong ending was pretty good, and in the end, I don't love the 5 City Park, but maybe the timing's on his side as far as being, in my humble estimation, the best dirt horse in the race. So I'm 2 deep to start, 2 logical horses, and just clearly put my stock in horses that have run well over the main. Inside and out in race number 6, a race very much centered upon, I think the real nucleus is the one, my point exactly, but I wanted to include the 9 Sublime Appeal, who just finally takes a realistic but also needed dip down in class. And I think that horse is really dangerous for 20K. He's been very ambitiously spotted throughout his career. 3 horses mid-pack towards the outside in the 7th. Used the Todd First of the 7 double advantage, along with the number 5 Our Uncle Eric and the 6 Harper, who's going to run a big one, you would think, dropping down. The pace is, I think, the biggest bullet point or narrative to the 8th race. I think the most talented horse is my top pick, the 7 Swirling Candy. We'll see how she does in a race where there are 2 speeds immediately to her outside. So I also back myself up using the Cassie filly by Liam's Map in the 2-Song River. And the number 11 horse, Tony's Rose, may get a very glib pace to close down as she takes another run at Swirling Candy. And in talking about a glib pace, Ronnie, I see a ton of speed, plethora of speed types. And to me, with singling Cryogenic in the nightcap, he's back on his preferred surface, and I just ultimately feel and felt as though with Apache Brave mainly and Goodbye Greg the 2, something would have to give between those 2, likely just, going toe-to-toe right out of the starting gate.
Yeah, so it's all about the trip in race number 9. That was my later pick in there. I didn't go that deep. I just thought that that post, maybe we couldn't get there. We'll see how that race plays out. But very affordable $18 ticket here in the late pick 5.
Like I was saying, don't love the dirt races as a whole very collectively for the 5 City Park. But the fact that he's second off the layoff, he's had time to acclimate, et cetera, to South Florida. Maybe he's just in a good spot this afternoon for for our buddy Leo Gabriel.
Well, he scratched out of a race on Wednesday. He was the main track only entrant on Wednesday in one of the races that after that deluge we had was taken off the turf. So did they keep him for this spot? I don't know the reasoning behind that, but I just thought, like you said, he's run well on the dirt. Now, that was against Louisiana Bred Allowance Company at the fairground, so we'll see how he runs in there. And like I said, I kept looking at roses on my ticket, dropping this level, trying a mile on the dirt. Finished that good second. I don't know really what you're going to get there with Paco handling the surface switch this afternoon. Didn't use you two. I have to go back and look at that horse in race number 5.
His effort 3 back was okay. You know, the thing with the 4 looking at Rose is there's no doubt in my mind he is the most talented, sharpest horse in the race. You've got to decide, though, and ask yourself, do you want a horse with exclusive and strictly solid but exclusive turf form on the dirt today? We've seen a lot of horses, Ronnie, with turf form get bet in these off-the-turf races. They're just, as a whole, they're bad bets, but I hear you. He's an intriguing player. I've got him 3rd, and obviously we'll see how he does. Time will tell in that 5th race. We're on the turf for race number 6 at about 2:40 Eastern on this Friday, June the 19th, and we start the grass racing in style. It's a good little race here. Headlined, of course, by the 8-year-old down on the rail, in My Point Exactly, who is, I think in a lot of respects, found the fountain of youth with trainer Carlos David. Not only that, his body of work's good. Stylistically, Ronnie, could be loosey-goosey in this race.
Yeah, and he's a 9-time local turf winner. He's back in the grass. You see that last race, he went up to set the pace. He finished 3rd, beating a half length against Similar. That race was moved to that 1-turn mile on that sealed sloppy track. You're right, he's got the speed. Carlos David just doing an excellent job. And you got Paco handling the surface switch this afternoon. I just thought he was the one to beat in there. I used Valiant Virtue in 2nd, who's debuting locally after a really competitive turf campaign at Tampa, in which he used his tactical speed in those races to finish 3rd and 2nd respectively against those 32 starter optional claimers for trainer Juan Arriagada. Sammy Camacho, a 3-win day on Wednesday. It looks like he's starting to really put it all together. And I'm always guessing when the Tampa horses coming here has been the bane of my existence for the last 25 years I'm here. So I'm trying to figure it out. I just thought that one run well, but I can understand having Sublime appeal on the ticket.
Who's in for the 20? He, to me, just looks realistically spotted after going off 20-1, 17-1. Dangerous this afternoon. He's not my horse, but I just always say more than half the battle, I think, is just realistically placing your stock. And I think Juan Rizzo has found a good race with a horse who does run hard. He's just been a little overmatched in his last few. Let's get on to the 7th, my friend. We're on the dirt. In fact, this will drop the curtain as far as our main track racing goes today. Our last dirt race will be a $50,000 to $40,000 maiden claiming affair. Led, I think, off the bat, you see Todd Pletcher with the first-time starter by Tapiture with Edgar riding. You've just gotta presume that the 7 double advantage not only is just properly spotted and placed first out, that he can run a little bit. And I just felt it was worthwhile to show one of his recent breezes. In fact, here's the thing. With Todd closing up shop at Palm Beach Downs, I read in the forum he's got about 50 horses stabled on the backstretch here at Gulfstream. So this is not a Palm Beach Downs video we're showing you right out of the starting gate up the main track chute here at the head of the stretch with Double Advantage, who worked outside, and work might be the operative word. This was a horse very workmanlike who was asked for a little bit in this breeze back on the morning of June the 12th here, just a few days ago at Gulfstream Park. I'm going to guess with the 7 double advantage, but I'll tell you, Ronnie, debuting in a maiden claimer in the middle of June, he's going to have to run a little bit when you consider the presence of the 6 Harper, the 5 Our Uncle Eric, and even your horse, who I don't particularly care for, but Girolomo's Attack did run fine first time out.
Yeah, and I want to show you a stat on Todd Pletcher. First-time starters, maiden claimers on the dirt at Gulfstream Park. He's 7 for 26, 27%, 54% the money. $1.80 is the return investment. Now, we always say that most of these wins were probably during the championship meet. The maiden claimers, when I looked up this stat, he had a lot of these horses win in December and even in April and stuff like when he left these couple of horses down here. So I think it's a good stat. I mean, you know, we're overemphasizing a horse that's going to be odds-on choice in here. Just wanted to put that stat out there.
Odds-on, you think?
Well,
he'll
he's
be
going to be favored. I don't know about odds-on, but he'll be favored in that spot, I think.
We'll see. It could be close between 4, 5, 6, and 7. Harper's down in class. The 5R Uncle Eric just didn't run first out. He's off the rail. I would imagine win, lose, or draw, he's going to run a little bit better than that forgettable fifth-place finish here at the start of the month. And you landed on Girolamo's Attack, who, for the level, got a respectable figure first time out, at least as far as buy is concerned.
Well, he's willing back after that solid debut you were alluding to. He vied for the lead. He finished second. That was going 6. It was on that sealed sloppy track. Larry Pilati got 3 or 4 wins at the summer meeting here. And Marcos Meneses penciled in for the return riding assignment this afternoon. That was my price play of the afternoon. I don't know what odds I'm going to get in there. Double advantage for all the reasons we just talked about. And Uncle Eric, like you said, you always expect horses like this from Georgina Baxter to take that positive step forward after they have a race or two under their belts.
All Turf Late Double Race 8 will do it. It's a little Friday feature here, starting the Stronach 5 as well with this cast of 3-year-old fillies going 5 furlongs, and just really admirable body of work and recent run for the 7 Swirling Candy, and she is very much the basis of this replay we'll bring up from May 29th. I was worried going into this race. I remember talking about it on the air, and there was some trepidation as far as would she be the same horse from breaking way outside? Would she be able to press or track or stalk if she didn't make the lead outright? And we got the answer, as she had no problem just lapping onto the 9-30-1 or not. That horse to her inside and Happy Loudon, she'll put her away and kick clear for an impressive victory. I don't have any qualms with the statement. In fact, I'm a firm believer she is the best, most talented, classiest horse in the race. I am a little concerned, even though I picked her, that she's going to have to go pretty fast today inside of the 8 Fly on Angel and the 9 Poseidon's Passion. Like you, Ronnie. Like me, you picked her in this spot, too.
Yeah, she's just been great on the grass, sprinting on the grass this year with those 5 starts, 3 wins, 2 seconds. She's really nice, and you just saw that performance. I had some interest in the number 4, Fujihara, who was third against $75,000 optional claimers when sprinting on the grass. That was during December. Goes back to the lawn for Carlos David. Faced, I thought, tougher competition on both dirt and turf, going longer. So we're going to guess about this distance today, but I found the stat on horses just straight out. Carlos David, dirt to turf. He's 5 for 25, 20%, 48% in the money. Nice return of investment. Limited sampling, $3.62 to return. And this is just over the past couple of years, because Carlos just got on his own over the last couple of years, and he's been doing a fantastic job. A little bit of a long shot in there, and then I used the number 9, Poseidon's Passion, hoping to get back to her winning ways this afternoon. But boy, Swirling Candy, I came this close to maybe singling that horse when I was putting the Stronach 5 ticket together, but I had to go a little deeper in there.
Now, the 9th is where my singles house personally, and that is Cryogenic, who he's a better turf horse, and his last couple of races were run on the dirt. Not that he ran poorly in them, but clearly his benchmark series of good turf races for Mike Maker, going 5 furlongs. And again, with a couple of main track onlys, we're hoping, our fingers are crossed, and by the time this race rolls around, the weather will be what it is now, and we can run this race on the turf. Worst case scenario, he goes from stall 9 in a race where I think they're going to be flying in front of him. And I mentioned the pace in this race at being, I think, the biggest bullet point in the dialogue. And I got to think Apache Brave, the odds of him having as much trouble and just the awkwardness that he had in his most recent start, it's probably a long shot in that category. And you can see for yourself, it wasn't race-ending trouble, but he's way more of a feel-good type speed horse, and he was off just a little laggy, was steadied out from behind horses, and he is not in the spot he normally likes to set up shop. He's far better when he's in a spot like the one Goodbye Greg, who broke alertly from the rail and set the pace inside. Now, Apache Brave doesn't really run all that well after this spot. In the case of Goodbye Greg, this was a good effort out of this horse, who is just put up some good races. I'll tell you, Ronnie, sprinting on the turf for trainer Larry Ravelli.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're taking the blinkers off the number 11 Apache Brave this afternoon. If you watch that race when he was turning for home, the horse had to actually cock his head to see where he was going with those blinkers on. They take him off, he's going to run very well behind. You know, he was seventh behind my top pick in there that race, but I like the blinkers off this afternoon.
All right, Ronnie and I boxing up the super here as we move on to Pete Aiello, who's standing by with those Friday scratches and changes.